Imagine you are drifting toward Jupiter. At first, it does not look dangerous. It looks almost calm. A giant marble hanging in black space. Cream-colored bands. Orange storms. Soft curves. A beautiful world so far away from Earth that it feels more like a painting than a place. Then your spacecraft crosses the invisible line. The first warning is not visual. It is electrical. Your instruments begin to stutter. The cameras flicker. The radiation sensors spike. The computer starts correcting errors faster than it can report them, and Jupiter is still millions of kilometers away. That is the first thing you have to understand. Jupiter does not wait for you to touch it. Jupiter starts attacking before you even arrive. From Earth, it is a bright point of light. Through a telescope, it is a striped giant. In photographs, it is beautiful. But up close, Jupiter is not peaceful. It is not a place. It is not a world waiting to be explored. It is a moving system of storms, radiation, gravity, heat, pressure, and invisible violence. And the closer you get, the more it stops looking like a planet and starts looking like the final boss of the solar system. But here's the strange part. This monster may also be one of the reasons Earth is still here. Jupiter is difficult to fear from a distance because beauty hides scale. Your brain sees the colored bands and tries to reduce them into something familiar. Clouds, weather, a storm, a planet. But there is nothing familiar about Jupiter. You could fit more than 1,000 Earths inside it. Its mass is greater than all the other planets combined, more than twice over. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. All of them together still do not match Jupiter. That is not just size, that is dominance. In the solar system, Jupiter is not simply another planet orbiting the Sun. It is a gravitational authority. Everything near it has to negotiate with it. Moons, comets, asteroids, spacecraft. Even the Sun itself feels Jupiter tugging on it. From far away, that sounds majestic. But if you are close enough to feel what that mass means, majesty becomes terror. Because gravity is not just something that keeps a planet in orbit. Gravity is a sentence. And near Jupiter, that sentence has no appeal. Now imagine trying to descend, not land. Descend. Because on Jupiter, landing is the wrong word. There is no ground waiting for you. No mountain. No desert. No ocean surface. No place where a spacecraft could unfold its legs and settle. You fall into cloud, then deeper cloud, then thicker gas, then pressure, then heat. The sky does not end. It just becomes heavier. Every kilometer down, the atmosphere presses harder against the spacecraft. The walls strain. The temperature rises. The air stops behaving like air. And still, there is no surface. That might be the most disturbing thing about Jupiter. On Earth, danger usually has a shape. A cliff, a wave, a fire, a storm. On Jupiter, the danger is the planet itself. You do not crash into Jupiter. Jupiter slowly becomes too much to exist inside. The Galileo probe proved this in 1995. NASA sent it directly into Jupiter's atmosphere. For a short time, it transmitted data from inside the giant. Then the pressure climbed. The heat rose. The signal ended. The probe did not find a surface. It found a planet that gets worse the deeper you go. And this is where things change. Because the clouds we see on Jupiter are not decoration. They are the top layer of a machine. The great red spot looks like an eye. That is why people remember it. A huge red oval staring out from Jupiter's face. But it is not an eye. It is a storm. A storm so large that Earth could fit inside it. A storm that has been watched for centuries. Think about what that means. On Earth, a hurricane becomes a disaster in days. It tears across oceans, hits land, weakens, and dies. Jupiter's most famous storm has outlived nations. It was already ancient when modern science began observing it. It was there before aviation, before radio, before electricity became part of daily life, and it is still there. The winds around Jupiter's bands can reach hundreds of kilometers per hour, not as a rare event, not as a once-in-a-century disaster, as weather. The planet is wrapped in jet streams moving in opposite directions, grinding against each other, feeding storms, stretching clouds into belts that circle an entire world. And because Jupiter has no solid surface, there is no land to break the storms apart, no mountains to interrupt them, no continents to slow them, no frictional boundary like Earth has. The storms can keep going. They can persist, merge, split, change color, grow, shrink, return. From space, it looks smooth. Inside, it is a planet-sized atmosphere trying to tear itself into pieces. But the storms are only the visible violence. The worst part is invisible. Jupiter has the largest and most powerful magnetic environment of any planet in our solar system. If your eyes could see magnetism, Jupiter would not look like a sphere. It would look like an enormous invisible beast around the planet, swollen toward the sun and stretched behind it into space. This magnetic field traps charged particles. Then it accelerates them. Then it turns the space around Jupiter into a radiation trap. This is the part that makes Jupiter different from a normal dangerous planet. On Venus, the atmosphere kills you. On Mars, the cold and thin air kill you. On Mercury, the temperature extremes kill you. But Jupiter does not need you to enter the clouds. Its radiation can begin damaging electronics long before you ever reach the planet itself. An unprotected human would not have time to admire the view. A poorly shielded spacecraft would slowly lose its mind. Circuits fail, sensors degrade, memory corrupts, cameras collect noise, systems age faster than they should. This is why NASA did not send Juno to Jupiter like a normal spacecraft. They armored it. Juno carries a titanium vault around its most important electronics, not because it is dramatic, because Jupiter's environment is that hostile. Juno survives by avoiding the worst regions as much as possible. It dives close, collects data, escapes back outward, then returns again. It does not live comfortably around Jupiter. It survives Jupiter in controlled exposures, like a diver entering poisoned water for seconds at a time. And even then, every orbit is borrowed time. That is why Jupiter is not just scary to humans, it is scary to machines. But it gets worse, because Jupiter does not keep its violence to itself. Look at its moons. Io is the most volcanically active world we know, not because it is large, not because it is Earth-like, not because it has plate tectonics like ours. Io is tortured by gravity. As it orbits Jupiter, tidal forces pull and flex the moon again and again. The interior heats. The surface erupts. Volcanoes throw material into space. Io is not simply orbiting Jupiter. It is being worked by it, like a metal bar bent back and forth until it grows hot. Then there is Europa. From far away, Europa looks quiet, a pale moon covered in ice, cracked, smooth, cold. But under that ice may be a global ocean. That is why scientists care so much about it. Europa is one of the most important places in the search for life beyond Earth. But Jupiter makes even that hope dangerous. Europa orbits inside Jupiter's radiation environment. Its surface is constantly bombarded. Any future lander would have to survive both the cold silence of the ice and the invisible radiation storm from the giant next door. The place that might hide life is trapped beside the planet that tries to sterilize everything around it. That is the nightmare of the Jupiter system. The moons are not peaceful companions. They are prisoners. Io burns. Europa hides under ice. Ganymede carries its own magnetic field, as if it needed armor. Callisto stays farther out, like the one moon wise enough to keep distance. Jupiter does not just dominate space, it changes the lives of worlds. And now comes the part that many people get wrong. They say Jupiter protects Earth, and they are not entirely wrong. Jupiter's gravity can capture comets. It can pull objects away from dangerous paths. It can fling debris out of the solar system. It has taken impacts that would make anything on Earth look small. In 1994, the comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 was torn apart by Jupiter's gravity. 21 fragments slammed into the planet. The scars were enormous. For a short time, humanity watched Jupiter absorb cosmic violence in real time. And it was tempting to see the planet as a shield, a giant bodyguard, standing between Earth and the chaos outside. But here is the problem. Gravity does not have loyalty. Jupiter can pull objects away. It can also throw them inward. It can remove danger. It can also redirect danger. It can protect Earth in one moment and send something toward the inner solar system in another. That is what makes Jupiter more interesting than a villain. A villain chooses. Jupiter does not choose. It simply acts according to mass, orbit, and gravity. It is not evil. It is not good. It is indifferent. And sometimes that indifference protects us. Sometimes it threatens us. The monster is also the shield. That is the real horror. Earth may exist partly because Jupiter shaped the early solar system, but the same force that helped create order could erase worlds without noticing. Go back to the beginning of the solar system, before Earth had oceans, before Mars had lost its thicker atmosphere, before the asteroid belt became a graveyard of rock. Jupiter was already changing everything. There is a scientific idea called the Grand Tack hypothesis. It suggests that early Jupiter may have moved inward through the young solar system before Saturn helped pull it back outward. If that happened, Jupiter would have plowed through the disk of material that was trying to form planets. It would have scattered debris, cleared regions, redirected objects, limited how large Mars could grow. In that version of history, Jupiter did not simply join the solar system, it edited it. It helped decide which planets became large, which stayed small, which materials survived, which orbits remained stable enough for life to become possible. That means Earth is not just lucky because it sits at the right distance from the Sun. Earth may also be lucky because Jupiter did not move a little differently. A slightly different Jupiter could mean no Earth, or a different Earth, or an inner solar system too chaotic for life to survive long enough to ask questions. This is why Jupiter is terrifying. Not because it is angry, because it is powerful enough to change the story without meaning to. Now imagine being inside a spacecraft again. You are not falling into the clouds this time. You are just trying to orbit, a safe orbit. That should sound possible. But around Jupiter, even orbit is negotiation. Stay too close, and radiation accumulates. Move too deep into the wrong regions, and electronics degrade. Pass near the moons, and you enter a maze of gravity, charged particles, magnetic fields, and dust. Every mission to Jupiter has to be designed like a survival strategy. Pioneer, Voyager, Galileo, Juno, Europa Clipper, JUICE. They are not just explorers. They are messengers sent into an environment that does not want to preserve messages. Galileo orbited Jupiter for years and transformed what we know about the system. Then NASA intentionally sent it into Jupiter's atmosphere at the end of the mission, not because Jupiter needed another victim, because scientists had to protect Europa. If Galileo had crashed into Europa by accident, there was even a tiny chance it could contaminate a world that might have conditions for life. So the spacecraft was sent into the giant, a final dive into the planet it had studied. That is what Jupiter does to exploration. Even success ends with disappearance. And still, we keep going back, because terror is not the opposite of curiosity. Sometimes terror is what makes curiosity sharper. Jupiter is a laboratory for physics at scales we cannot build on Earth. Its magnetic field teaches us about plasma and radiation. Its storms teach us about atmospheres without solid ground. Its interior may reveal how gas giants form around other stars. Its moons may answer one of the oldest questions humans have ever asked. Are we alone? But Jupiter makes every answer expensive. To study Europa, you must survive Jupiter. To understand Io, you must watch a moon being torn by gravity. To map the magnetic field, you must fly through regions that can damage the spacecraft doing the mapping. To understand the king of the planets, you have to accept that the king does not welcome visitors. And this is where the beauty becomes disturbing again. Because the same planet that looks like art from Earth is up close, one of the most hostile natural systems we have ever tried to study. It has no surface. Its storms can outlive civilizations. Its radiation can damage machines. Its gravity bends moons. Its magnetic field fills space with invisible danger. Its history may have rewritten the architecture of the solar system. And yet, without it, Earth might not be Earth. That is not a simple story. That is why Jupiter stays in your mind. A planet that protects and destroys. A shield that can also throw the spear. A giant that keeps order by being terrifying. So when you look up at Jupiter in the night sky, remember what you are really seeing. Not a peaceful dot. Not just a beautiful planet. You are looking at a world where storms do not need land to survive. A place where falling never becomes landing. A magnetic engine large enough to shape the space around it. A radiation field so harsh that spacecraft need armor. A gravity well that once tore a comet into pieces and swallowed the fragments one by one. And somewhere beneath those clouds, pressure keeps rising. Hydrogen changes form. The atmosphere becomes an ocean of exotic matter. The planet continues turning. The storms continue feeding. The radiation belts continue glowing invisibly. It has been doing this for billions of years, before humans, before cities, before oceans filled with life, before anything on Earth ever looked up and called it Jupiter. And it will keep doing it long after we are gone. That is the final truth. The universe does not need to hate us to be dangerous. It only needs to be itself. Jupiter is not peaceful. But maybe peace was never its role. Maybe Jupiter is the reason the solar system has the shape it has. Maybe it is the reason Earth was spared enough time to become alive. Maybe it is the monster at the gate. And maybe we are only here because the monster has been standing there all along. If this changed the way you see Jupiter, hit like and subscribe. Because the deeper we look into the solar system, the less it feels like a quiet neighborhood, and the more it feels like a battlefield we were lucky to survive.